Adelaide at the moment is witnessing an infrastructure boom for the next 10 years, the likes that South Australia has never seen before. So it was a great opportunity to have a chat with Chris and talk about how the role of the surveyors changed over the last 10 years and this challenge of this impending workload and what it means for surveyors here in Adelaide. So Chris Staak, welcome. Good to meet you.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me.
So I guess place to start, tell us how you got into surveying.
Well, it's not a very glamorous story. I think most surveyors are actually the same, aren't they? Like, they just fall into the industry. And I was just a 17-year-old wondering what to do for the rest of my life. And look, a friend of mine was already doing it and he recommended it. I guess the rest is history. Yeah,
and do you remember your first project that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, the first is always the one that sticks with you. It might not have been my true first, but it was probably my first major project. Yeah. And like, I was probably 21, straight out of university, and you walk into this major construction project with machines running everywhere, a office full of engineers. Yeah. It's pretty daunting, I would say, and also mind-blowing. Yeah.
You're talking about all the services were quite the challenge in that first project.
Yeah, it's something that you don't think about, just in everyday life. The services that are running underneath the ground, but it's like, as a surveyor, it's one of the first things that you're exposed to on these big projects, and just like how complex and really it's an underground spaghetti network of cables running every which way. It was pretty eye-opening.
It sounds like these days for a construction company, managing services and not hitting them is probably one of the biggest threats to their profitability.
For sure. Like, service strikes in our world, I mean, I think every construction company is dealing with it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they like to point to surveyors if something happens. So look, there's a bit of a risk mitigation piece there. But I think Dial before he did came out with a stat that the cost of service strikes last year, the combined costs, so direct and indirect, but was across all of Australia was somewhere around $4.6 billion. So that's just it's a huge cost. It's a huge inefficiency, delays projects. It's bad news.
Yeah, and imagine that cost is probably going up every year, unfortunately, rather than down.
Well, these projects, we're probably more and more brownfield projects, working in areas where maybe when the services weren't installed, there wasn't much thought process behind the services. Mm-hmm. So, they just smack them down, lay them down, wherever they feel like it fits in. And maybe even the record keeping when those services were installed was pretty laxed. Mm. So it's certainly a constant battle that construction companies, but really surveyors, because we're at the forefront of that and that data.
And I imagine a lot of projects now are in more brownfield sites, more congested areas. There's probably a lot more utilities going in as well. So the risk of server clash compared to before, where it was lots of greenfield projects, it's probably...
Absolutely. Greenfield projects are a dream these days. More greenfield projects, please. But look, in South Australia, we're just about to deal with Torrens and Darlington, and that is 10 kilometres down the busiest road in the city. And it certainly is the most complex road for underground services. So, it's going to be challenging over the next 8 years.
Yeah, because that project's got a huge budget as well. Right?
Huge budget. I think it's about $16 billion, which these projects are just getting bigger and bigger. And certainly for South Australia, for Adelaide, the biggest civil infrastructure project we've built here, probably civil infrastructure road project we've built here, is about $1 billion. So it's 16 and a half times the size in terms of cost. So yeah, it brings like a lot of opportunities, which everyone's looking forward to in the state, but it also brings a lot of challenges.
Yeah, it's good to see a mega project in Adelaide. It's always been the East Coast that sort of had all these crazy projects for the last 10 years.
We've been waiting our turn.
Yeah, very patiently. Yeah.
Very patiently.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of people in Adelaide, we've been talking about this project for 5 or 10 years now, so a lot of people in Adelaide are really looking forward to getting underway. And this is the last piece of the puzzle. It's the last piece of a bigger project, which is the North-South Corridor. And once this is complete, I think it will really change the way traffic flows in Adelaide. Yeah.
Mind you, coming from Sydney, I'd love to have the traffic issues of Adelaide, considering you're building this mega project to avoid what I think is quite a pleasant traffic on a peak hour.
It's all about perspective though, isn't it? Because I feel peak hour in Adelaide is pretty bad. So it's just, it's a big perspective piece.
Yeah, I'm fortunate too. I've got an office now in Manila, and when I visit there, the traffic there is an absolute nightmare. So it's just absolutely gridlocked for 3 hours in the morning and at night, so you just don't go anywhere. So all of a sudden, I also think Sydney's not so bad.
Yeah, well, it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah. I guess the geography of Adelaide, you've really got the water on the east and then the hills on the right. Yep. So the sprawl really is north and south. So that corridor is really important for Adelaide.
Yeah. I'm going to get this figure wrong, but I think this last piece is taking out something like 22 traffic lights. The last 22 traffic lights. So it will, once it's completed, it'll be non-stop from north to south, which will be pretty phenomenal. And look, a lot of the freight, like everyone sort of leans towards, how their commute's going to look to get into work. But a lot of it's to deal with the freight issues, and that's a freight corridor running north to south. Yep. So bringing that freight off our metropolitan roads would be huge.
So imagine at the moment those trucks are going through the CBD.
Yeah, just adjacent to the CBD, but close enough. Yeah.
So Chris, do you want to tell us about your role at ESO?
Yeah, look, I'm lucky enough to have fallen into a job at ESO like straight out of university, which is pretty phenomenal. So that's a long time ago. But about 12 years ago, I started running the South Australian branch, and it was just me sitting in an office. And 12 years later, we've got a team of close to 40 people working on some of the state's biggest projects. It's pretty exciting where we are now, but it's also cool to just look back to see where we came from, all those years ago. We're lucky, ESO is a national company, so lots of good systems, policies, procedures already in place that we can leverage at the start of a branch. So certainly fortunate for that, but yeah, we're in a pretty good spot in South Australia now.
Tell us a little bit more about ESO as a company.
Yeah, so national company, we've got offices in most states of Australia. I think we're close to about 140 employees across the country. We work on major infrastructure projects, and a big focus of the business now is in the reality capture space. Reality capture is just like a fancy word for old school detail survey, probably using cool new tech to actually capture that data.
Certainly sounds a lot cooler.
Yeah, it sounds a lot cooler, doesn't it?
So picture to Gen Z. Yeah.
It's the buzzword. Digital and spatial and reality capture, I think, certainly buzzwords at the moment in the surveying industry for sure. Yeah.
I assume ESO's involved in all that new tech.
Yeah, I mean, tech's just transforming the way we capture data. I mean, the old way was pick up every point of interest that you want. You physically have to pick up that point. Now we've got drones and scanners that capture rate are up to 2 million points a second.
Yep.
Which brings new challenges, but it's also exciting, and it really is taking some of that emphasis off the surveyor for what some surveyors call mundane tasks, I guess.
Yeah, like you're even talking about the tiny robots to help you out on site.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, like surveyors always whinged about setting out line marking because they're just walking kilometres and kilometres on newly laid asphalt. Now they can get a robot to do the line marking set out for them, and they can just follow that robot in a car behind them. So they're obviously still in charge of quality and the data management that goes behind it, but it's just one of those mundane tasks of walking 10 kilometres, dashing a line on the edge of a newly laid road.
Yeah, and then go do the same for the next lane.
And then the next lane, and then the next lane. Yeah, you know, for hours on end and days on days. So, yeah.
So I guess over the last decade or so, you would have seen the role of the surveyor change quite a lot.
For sure. The complexity of the data that we're dealing with is getting more and more. The time frames that we're getting delivered, probably speaking specifically about design data for these big infrastructure projects, the time frame in which we're being delivered that data, and then I guess the surveyor is at the coalface having complex data that's delivered late and an expectation for them to be carrying out field work, you know, then and now. So that's pretty challenging for our surveyors. So I guess the big focus that we are concentrating on now is building a good senior data management team that's had the experience in the industry to really make that a bit more of a seamless process for the surveyors, so they don't feel the heat as much in the here and now when they're on site at the coalface.
Yeah, it's tricky for the surveyors too. I guess the finger gets pointed at you if anything essentially goes wrong on site.
It's a tough job. I mean, surveying as an industry is brilliant, but it certainly has its challenges, and that's one of them. Unfortunately, there's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blame. Yeah. Surveyors are an easy bunch to turn to. You know, we're controlling all of the data on site, and we're responsible for setting out that data and then also picking up the, you know, whatever's being constructed as a conformance or an as-built work is executed. So I think it's easy for people just to turn to the surveyor and, it's the surveyor's fault.
Yeah. What are some of the good things you like about surveying as a profession?
There's so many. I mean, the first thing is, I think when you're young and starting off in the industry, the ability to travel and see the country and the world is pretty phenomenal. I've got to work in some pretty cool places. The ability to mix up field work with office work. Look, if it's 11 degrees outside and it's pouring with rain, an office looks pretty good, doesn't it? But if it's 25 degrees and the blue skies, then, you know, I think a lot of people want to be outside enjoying it.
Yeah. Whenever we run a survey course, it's very weather dependent how many attendees we have coming along.
Oh, for sure.
Or if it's 40 degrees, amazingly, all of a sudden that training looks pretty, looks like a good option.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Adelaide certainly, we get some weeks of 40 degree weather. So, that, you know,